You know, we hear a lot about brands in the world of business, but do you really hear a lot about self-storage brands? Probably not. Let's talk about self-storage brands and your self-storage business. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Quick Start Academy. And what I do is I support the small investor who wants to get in the self-storage business or who wants to grow their self-storage business, strategically do so in a way that creates true wealth and a fulfilling career. And you can find out more about the services, free and in-depth training that I offer at creatingwealththroughselfstorage.com. Now, do you think much about branding in the self-storage business? Well, we all know the big brands, Public Storage, Extra Space, the REITs. We know those brands. But what's the real difference between them? So if you had to rent storage and you've got, let's just say, Public Storage and across the street Extra Space, they're both comparable type facilities, which one would you choose? What's the culture? What's the customer experience you would expect? What's the difference between the customer experience you would expect as a customer going from one to the other? You probably don't have any preconceived notion of it, do you? You see, the reality is, even us as self-storage owners, deep down inside, we relate to self-storage as a commodity. So it really doesn't matter which one you go to. Deep in your core, or deep in my core, that's the reality of it. Sure, we may tout our USPs, our unique selling propositions, and how we're different from our competition, but perhaps deep down inside, you really relate to self-storage as a commodity. I think as an industry, we're terrible at branding. We don't have a brand. I mean, we may have logos, but I'm not real clear on any company's brand. Yes, in my humble opinion, we've done a terrible job as an industry creating brands. Most of us have collapsed in our thinking our brand with our business or our business practices. That's not a brand. A business is the products and services you sell. So in the storage business, what are we selling? A 10 by 10, so anywhere 80 to 100 cubic feet of empty space. That's literally what we're selling, that and locks. That's the business we're in. A brand is the personality of the business. A distinct, marketable, knowable personality that a customer relates to. What's the personality of your self-storage business? You? Well, I sure hope I'm not the personality of our self-storage business. In the past, I've made references to the culture of your business. You're going to have a culture. Most people in the storage business allow their culture to occur by default rather than by design. But we're even talking about going a step beyond that when we're talking about branding. So I invite you to consider for a minute the example of Apple and Microsoft. Both create PCs and now a lot of other devices, but they have two distinctly different brands. Both of them have had a huge impact in the computing industry, but they have distinctly different cultures. I mean, the brand of Apple and the loyalty that Apple users have goes beyond rational behavior in many cases. But it is a very distinct brand. They're both, at least started, but they're both in primarily the same business. Very distinct brands. You have a totally different expectation of a customer experience with an Apple product than a Microsoft product. I'm not saying one's bad and one's good. It's just they're distinct brands, and the customers relate to them as brands, not businesses. We all can do better here. I can do better. Our company can do better. See, brands can pivot better. Brands make a bigger impact on an industry in the world than businesses do. Brands are what create loyal, raving customer fans. You see, it's the brand that customers want to relate to, not the business. What is your self-storage brand? That's why you could care less if it's Extra Space or Public Storage you're going to rent the 10 by 10 from. You're probably going to go for price or go for convenience, whatever is an emotional driver for you, because there really isn't much of a distinction between the brands at this point. What's the distinction between your brand and the competitions in your submarkets? You may even think you have one. Do your customers know it? That's why most of us just compete on price or just compete on location. Now, truth be told, our company's not where I want to be on creating a brand either. So how do you create a brand? Well, I'm not an expert on this, and I'm been researching it and thinking about it, and I'm going to be working with my team over the next year to really work on creating a brand as we pivot through this new reality that we're living into in the storage business. So here's one way that we're going to be thinking about it. If our self-storage business was a magazine, what would we be writing about? Well, I would suggest we choose 5 things. Now, I'm just pulled these off the top of my head. It really works better to work with your team or to really sit down and do it. But let's say one thing that we would write about or talk about is our community, where our facilities are. We might talk about the goals and aspirations and lives of the customers that do business with us. We might write about what our managers are interested in, what their goals are, what their hobbies are, what their lives are like. We might talk about what our company or our team has done to make a difference in the communities in which we do business. We might write about how we're different and what our culture and brand is compared to our competition. So come up with a few things that you would write about, and then write about them. Here, for example, the beauty of today is there's a lot of social media. So maybe between social media, Facebook, all the other social media outlets, newsletters, emails to customers. Monday, you post about the community in which you do business. Tuesday, you post about the customers that you do business with. Wednesday, you write and email about your managers and what they're up to in life, and so on. And over time, you begin to create a brand for your company. So there is no necessarily right or wrong thing. It's just decide what you want your brand to be about and then set about and create that brand. Now imagine if your team members woke up every day and knew that one of their jobs they're going to set about to do that day is to be responsible for the brand of the company and creating that brand. I bet they would show up to work differently, especially if they had some input on how that brand and what that brand is and why we're creating this brand over some other brand. I bet that company would soon have a very unique brand that the public could relate to. You know, brands create distinct personalities for businesses. Just like people's personalities are different, different companies' brands will be different. So I really invite you to think about branding your company in a new way over the next upcoming year. I know that we are, and we're going to spend some time really thinking this through and coming up with our new brand in order to relate to the changes we're making in our company and how we're doing business and relating to our customers. This is going to be a big part of our upcoming year. So thank you very much for letting me share. And I invite you to really take on thinking about and planning your brand for your self-storage company. So I look forward to being with you again next week. My name's Mark Helm. I'll see you later.